Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the Trump derangement cult a little bit more. First and foremost, there will be a pinned comment if you're watching on YouTube with 4 links to other hosting sites that I use for my videos. You should join me on one or more of those, especially BitChute, because for right now I'm still making my exclusives there. I will be making more alt-tech exclusive content fairly shortly. I'm going to keep with this current format for a little while longer, a few days, maybe a week or two, and that's about it. Anyway, of course the other day, the Senate officially acquitted Donald Trump. They declared unequivocally, in a legally binding manner, no, Donald Trump did not cause an insurrection at the Capitol. No, Donald Trump did not intend to cause that. Now, first I thought to myself, it's funny because he's still banned on Twitter, and that was their main justification. Well, his comments were right before the Capitol riot, a reasonable person would construe them as inciting violence, so it's too dangerous to have him on the platform or something like that. They even put out a presser explaining specifically why he had been banned. Interesting that he's still banned, considering the central premise of the reason that he was kicked off the platform is now bullshit. We know it's bullshit because a legally binding Senate decision has been made. They held the vote. It's binding. Fucking, he should have his account back, I guess. But of course that would require ideological consistency, and in honk world that's not going to happen. Is YouTube going to restore material related to Trump? Is YouTube going to start banning people that question the Senate's decision and still maintain the lie that he tried to cause an insurrection? That would be an interesting move, but again, it's totally not going to occur. That's because too many people would dislike the decision. And it's basically based on popularity and income. But they just won't stop fucking talking about it. Link in the description. Now they're saying, well, the final step might be to apply the 14th Amendment because it bars people engaged in rebellion against the U.S. Can be barred from holding office. The problem is, number one, the Senate has determined that didn't happen, so that kind of fucks you up. And number two, who's going to interpret the 14th in that way? Well, SCOTUS would have to get involved. The Supreme Court would end up having to make a decision, just like if the Senate had stupidly voted to convict Trump. It would have required the Supreme Court to step in to decide whether it was even valid because he's no longer president, he's a private citizen. So these people they refuse to fucking let go. So Scaramucci and all these other grifters continue to make large sums of money, basically just beating the dead horse of Trump derangement syndrome. Look, Beijing Biden is your president now. If something's going wrong, you can't blame Trump anymore for COVID. You can't blame Trump anymore for the fact that the economy's still in a slump. You have to blame Biden for that. He promised in 100 days, he'd have you shitting rainbows and sitting next to leprechauns and pots of infinite gold and shit like that. He promised all sorts of stuff. So far, he hasn't really done much other than repeal a bunch of executive orders in a unilateral and almost dictatorial fashion without getting called out for it. You see, who's the real fascist? The dude who's, how many executive orders is he up to now? In the first, 100 days of office, it's not normal for a president to be acting the way Biden is. Basically, I think I know what he's doing, by the way, on the Biden front. He's doing that because he knows that he's got a brief window, a sweetheart period it's called, in which he can have more latitude and not get called out as much. So he's just burning his way through trying to erase everything that Trump did, most of which was good, like the insulin price reduction executive order. Beijing Biden is still getting hammered for that. In more prosaic terms, of course. It hadn't kicked in yet anyway, but it was going to save people a boatload of money on EpiPens and insulin. They're not going to get those savings now. Come on, man, says Joe Biden. I want to take credit for that. So he'll push through something that'll be basically the same. He'll probably try to get through the legislature, though. Technically more stable, but not really necessary. Only he would be foolish enough to have stripped in the first place. Beijing Biden, the problem with Joe Biden is he's so boring. And that's really why we see Trump derangement syndrome. And it's not just, on the side of people that didn't like Trump still complaining about him even though he's not in office anymore. People who are like super fans of Trump, they're still doing the QAnon LARP thing, some of them. Although the drastic predictions of the doomsayers on the left, oh my God, it's not going to go away, they're going to form cults and shit. No, that has petered out. To be clear, that LARP, which is what it was, and I strongly suspect liberals were behind it to begin with, has died down to a murmur. What hasn't gone away is populism, though, and I think that's a good thing. People have recognized, hey, it is structurally possible to elect an individual who actually seems to represent my interests as opposed to those of a global elite. What a novel idea, say people. Why do you think that they're dumping on Trump constantly? They're terrified that the idea will take full hold. They're terrified of the conversion of the U.S. away from globalism into a nationalistic force. Quasi-nationalistic, of course, I mean in the economic sense, where people will actually vote for their larger self-interest as opposed to just voting for a little bit more welfare and a few more taxes and another shitty trade deal, which is what they're offered with people like Biden. And I think there's going to be a lot of buyer's remorse involved. And look, people don't even talk about Biden except to chide him for doing something stupid or having a dementia moment. Trump, meanwhile, love him or hate him, he's still headline news. He's at the top of the news every fucking day. He hasn't even been in office now for almost a month. It's wild. It's hilarious. Then people are still taking it in. It's like they've gotten addicted. Now, I talked about how Trump had gotten them addicted to tabloid heroin early on. Well, now they're going through withdrawal and they're still looking for a fix. So you can expect them to whore themselves out even more in due time. That's about all. Peace out.